Others in support?
Bill Higgins on behalf of the California Association of Councils of Governments, which includes all 18 metropolitan planning organizations and many of the regional transportation planning agencies of the state. And the maintenance side of this is very important to our plans. We often think about the capacity building nature of it, but to the extent that we want to encourage more people to live in our urbanized areas, we need good roads and rehabilitated roads in those areas. Thank you.
So much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. $59 billion backlog is a lot of jobs and a lot of lost economic activity for the state. We encourage this bill to pass. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Kiara Ross on behalf of the City of Sacramento and the Marin County Council of Mayors and Council members, all in support. We think this is a very important measure and support it strongly.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Paul Gonzalez representing the cities of Thousand Oaks, Lakewood, Bellflower, Claremont, Concord, and Rancho Cucamonga. I'd like to thank the author for his leadership and request your support.
Chairman and members of the committee, Jana Sosted with International Union of Operating Engineers, and we support the bill.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, members, Dave Ackerman representing the Associated General Contractors in support. Also, I might add that an economic analysis done by the California Business Roundtable indicates that for every $1 billion you spend on transportation improvements generates 19,000 direct construction jobs and as many as 30,000 jobs through the ripple effect. This is a big deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Keith Dunn here for the Self-Help Counties Coalition, as well as the American Council of Engineering Companies. And I would just say from the Self-Help Counties Coalition, we are contributing through the local sales tax initiative by a 2/3 vote, billions of dollars annually to this. It's not enough. You can't rely on the locals to continue to maintain our system. We need to have a stable source from the state. I think this is a good step in the right direction. I commend the senator and would ask for your support.
Steve Baker with Aaron Reed & Associates for the Professional Engineers in California Government in support.
Mr. Chair, members, Roxanne Miller representing the Mayor, City Council, City of San Jose in strong support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Radigan on behalf of the Board of Supervisors of Santa Clara County in support.
Jeannie Wardwaller with the California Bicycle Coalition. We're here very supportive of the bill, and we believe that road maintenance is an important opportunity to also increase access for all of our users, including bicyclists and pedestrians, and look forward to your support. Thanks.
Laura Parr on behalf of the City of Napa in support.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members, our board for the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Transportation Authority has agendized this for May 21st. Staff's going to be recommending support at that time. And so in advance of that, we want to express our support.
Thank you.
Michael Quigley, Deputy Director of the California Alliance for Jobs. We are in support of the bill and have also conducted extensive voter research since the beginning of the year. And the conclusion of that research is that voters are in support of a structured package similar to how SB 16 is, and we'll be making that information available to the legislature. Thank you
so much. Opposition to the measure.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members, good morning. David Wolf with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association in opposition to this. Members, we understand that there is inequity in how we collect gas taxes for transportation. There's a bevy of alternative fuel vehicles out there right now that don't use the same gas and the same fuel requirements, and that problem is going to continue to get worse in the years to come, and it needs to be addressed. But members, it's not addressed by doubling down on a tax and increasing a tax that's very inequitable. It's just not the way to do it. We are very pleased, members, with the late fees going to road maintenance in this bill, with using money to pay down various borrowing from transportation funds that have been diverted to the general fund. We think that represents very good transportation public policy, but it's how it's funded with a $3.5 billion annual gas tax over 5 years that obviously we do have a tremendous amount of issues with. California has the second highest gas tax in the nation behind Pennsylvania. And it's worth noting, and I think a discussion does need to be had, Mr. Chairman, just with how our roads are funded. We have a $110 billion general fund budget. We have a $2 billion surplus right now. A lot of that's going to go to Prop 98, of course, but there still is a $2 billion surplus. And we need to, I think about it, as was referenced in earlier testimony, spending more dedicated revenue on transportation projects. It worked 50 years ago with Pat Brown, and there's no reason it can't, especially with more general fund revenue, why it can't work in that same way today. So for those reasons,
Do you agree that we have this infrastructure deficit where the demand exists? Forget how you pay for it for a minute. Let's just start with the question, do we have a problem?
Mr. Chairman, the committee analysis noted, I believe, what, a $58 billion...
$78 billion, I think it was. It was a significant one for local government. So if you've got that, your approach is, how would you pay for that? If you've got this problem, if it affects society in a bunch of ways and productivity and all kinds of stuff, whether it's the bicyclists or the truckers to everybody else in between, how would you solve the problem? Don't you have to finance this?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure anybody in this room can answer that question appropriately. You know, what I do know is, as I said, doubling down on a gas tax that's becoming more and more inequitable by the year because of the use of alternative vehicles, I think represents a problem, and I think it's a problem.
Really have, I'm just like, I get your point of view, but let's be constructive here. I mean, if we have an issue, how do we fix it? I'll just take a second and we'll move on. You either have two ways to do it. You can use the full faith and credit of the People's Taxing Authority through a general fund and just appropriate it, or you can have a revenue stream. That revenue stream can be a fee, a toll. It could be a gas tax. It could be something which is off the books of the state, and there's no obligation of the state to pay that bill. Those are the only two ways you can do it, right? Those are the only two ways you can do it. That's if you have to do the work, unless you ask everybody to do the work for free, right? So it's got to get a revenue stream. So what would you do? You don't, historically, if you look at California, you say Pat Brown. Pat Brown didn't fund the state with current cash flow money. He funded the state with revenue bonds or with GO bonds. How would you do that? I mean, I get your opposition and tax thing. Pay-as-you-go revenue bonds. We do it with prisons. I mean, somehow this is a serious problem. The members of your organization care about it. I want to move you to a constructive position of saying, okay, I get you don't like tax. I'm off. Okay, that's your position. But if we got a problem, then help us come up with ways to do it. That's all I'm trying to get.
Mr. Chairman, and I would just say in closing that with a $110 billion budget and with the ability to with a 2/3 vote, raise taxes on the local level, as Orange County has done twice for transportation purposes, Orange County, mind you. There are plenty of existing ways to get and raise revenue to fund this without raising taxes.
But there's a lot of people, they raise the local taxes who drive in the Orange County roads that don't pay the local tax, but the fuel tax requires them, if they're using the road, they pay the tax. There's a direct correlation from a policy level between the two. I just want to elevate the discussion a little bit here, and not just accept it. Okay, any other opposition, sir?
Maybe just to engage you.
Please, of course.
Because we have a transportation problem, we have an unfunded pension plan problem, we have an unfunded retiree medical problem.
That's right.
We've got an unrestricted net deficit in this state of $117 billion problem. So we're just looking at 1/4 of our big problems. And so I appreciate what you're asking the speaker, because at least you're taking a proactive approach to figure out how to restructure our taxing system. And it seems to me it's got to come all the way from the top, and how do we deal with all 4 of these segments? So I appreciate the dialogue, but,
it's
but
important.
we got
we all
more,
got to look at it.
And we can't just say we're going to raise taxes for all 4 of them.
Right. Got to figure it out. That's what we're trying to do, and to take a more holistic view and to begin to elevate that discussion a little bit and engage. I think it's exactly right. We've got to answer those questions. Any other opposition? Anything further from the members?
Question out of curiosity. I know some cities, but not all cities, have a really complete deferred maintenance program for their local streets.
Yeah, I can talk about that.
So that we know that keeping up on maintenance is a lot less expensive than letting your roads deteriorate significantly. It seems to me that's part of the discussion, or should be part of the solution. in dealing with this, because that is a challenge where it is interesting. Many of these cities here would not vote themselves to increase taxes, but they do like
Yeah, because I mean,
the legislature doing that.
Taxes, they buy our stuff. It's not just the burden on the locals. It really does distribute it to folks who are here or passing through and the like. And in terms of, as we analyze these things, did you have a question, Senator Lara? No. Okay. Just one final thing, and we'll let Senator Bell close.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd love to drill Senator Bell for at least 45 to 50 minutes, Mr. Chair. I've got so many questions on his bill, but just maybe a few quick questions, Senator Bell. You're giving an incentive for non-self-help counties to do so by giving them a 5% new revenue. Why aren't we doing something for those that have already committed earlier?
Well, Santa Clara County, which I represent, was the first self-help county, and we established some legislation to do that in the mid-'80s. I think it was, Mark Watts might know, 84, I think it was. And we had Senator Alquist introduce a bill. We passed our half-cent sales tax. And then a couple years later, there was the general half-cent sales tax for counties. And since then, I think 20 counties have passed half-cent sales tax. Some counties have passed it more than once. There are, however, 58 counties. Some counties have attempted to pass the half-cent sales tax. There are some people that say, well, why don't we change the rules and say it requires less than a 2/3 vote, which I'm sure my friend here next to me would oppose, no doubt. But the other approach might be to establish on an annual basis a fund that incentivizes these counties to sort of tell their voters that if they can pass a half-cent sales tax and use the money for the maintenance deficit, they will be able to get a one-time additional funding from a fund created in this to incentivize them to pass the half-cent sales tax. We've gone since the early 80s on the half-cent sales tax. So we still have 38 counties that haven't passed the half-cent sales tax. So you got to look at the bigger picture there. I'll give you an example. Stanislaus County, tried a couple times, came close, haven't been able to approach it. The chairman of the board came and testified in the Transportation Committee, supported this legislation. He's the president of California Association of Counties. He explained that they've tried a couple times, they haven't got it through. This might help them in some way incentivize the voters to pass the sales tax. I like to point out Stanislaus County has one of the worst road conditions in the state. So they incentivizing them to do this is important. If there is no county that passes the tax under this bill, the money just returns to, on an annual basis, to the pot that is available, that's spread out over the 50-50 formula. It doesn't just stay there, okay? It goes back into the, under this bill, it goes back into the pot, and it's distributed in accordance with the formula of subvention that exists. So it's not a lot, but it's a little bit of incentive for these counties, 38 in number, to attempt to do this and consider a sales tax or some other kinds of way of raising funds to help them complete their road maintenance needs. So that's the reason. Okay.
Maybe I'll just share 4 quick thoughts, and then if you want to respond to them.
Of course, happy to.
All the questions I had listed. But
go ahead.
The claim that if we spend $1 billion in transportation, it creates all these jobs, but that $1 billion comes out of taxpayer pockets, and I'm kind of thinking, I didn't major in economics, my father did, but it seems like a zero-sum game. You're spending $1 billion here, but you're taking it from somewhere else, so at the end of the day, there might be jobs lost as well. Two, the County of Orange had a lot of school districts pass bond measures all at once, and then they all built all at the same time, and we found that prices went up dramatically. And I'm wondering how that could be addressed if this were to pass. How do you make sure you parse out the work so that all of a sudden you're not finding higher material costs, labor costs, et cetera? Thirdly, I just recently reviewed the legislative analyst report on BART, the Bay Area Rapid Transit, and they're screaming and going, oh my goodness, we've got 20-year-old cars and we have no money to replace them. And it just seems like, well, wait a second, you should have been thinking about that 20 years ago. Is that the old Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago? And we're mandating that homeowners associations set up reserves in anticipation of repaving roads, re-roofing, all kinds of projects. And I'm just wondering if that could be included in your legislation, that we are getting better at our fiscal stewardship with the items that we build and maintain, because we're not. It's kind of we react when it's too late. Yeah. And so other than that, those are my comments for now. But yeah. Senator Bell, I want to thank you for your hard work. This is a big project, and you've done a lot of hard work, and I just want to affirm you in that.
Okay, I'll go through those one at a time. The $1 billion, we heard that it creates, this bill is in the neighborhood of economic impact, 171,000 jobs, indirect and direct. They said 19,000, the Business Roundtable, these are the Business Roundtable's numbers. So if 171,000 jobs are created in California as opposed to what we have today, and the money is spent on actual maintaining the roads, and how much does that help the economy? I submit to you, Senator, that maintaining the roads properly is an economic benefit to the state of California. I submit to you that letting the roads fall apart is an economic disincentive to the state of California. So I would suggest that those broader economic questions, we can have business community leaders discuss that in the full context of what would happen if we go beyond the $79 billion local deficit and the $58 billion state deficit. If we start going up to 200 million, 300 million, my analogy there is if we don't do something fast, we are not going to ever be able to catch up. We are going to get to a point where we cannot catch up, and we will have infrastructure that is deteriorated too far, and that includes roads, bridges, highways, have deteriorated too far for us to fiscally challenge that problem. We will not be able to challenge that problem, and we are getting to a point where we cannot challenge that problem. So we need to act now on this. This is something that will have a benefit to the economy. People, when they see the deterioration that will occur in the next couple of years, just the next short period of time, will not invest in California. They will go away from California. They'll say California is falling apart, and literally that will be true. And they will leave our state, and we will have a disincentive for the economy. So I submit that a modest, user-based, the users pay here, the user-based fees and taxes that we're proposing will benefit the California economy, and it is much better for us to do that than to think of the consequences of not doing that. The other issue, of course, is if we don't do that, California is already $200 to $300 more per vehicle damage on a yearly basis than other states. So we're actually spending money, more money than this tax and fees actually have right now. We're spending more money right now in terms of damage to our vehicles. So I think that's the answer to your question.
We can take that as your close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I think it was a good close.
Talk to him about BART some other time, though.
Okay, but bill has been moved. Any further? We got a motion is, Senator, it's due passed as amended to appropriations. You took the amendment, sir?
Yes, sir.
Delayed. Okay, very good. As to appropriations, Secretary, please call the roll.
Hertzberg?
Aye.
Hertzberg, aye. Wynn? Bell?
Aye.
Bell, aye. Hernandez? Hernandez, aye. Laura? Laura, aye. Morlock? Morlock, no. Pavley? Pavley, aye. You have 5-1.
5-1, we'll keep that open.
No, she didn't vote.
What?
So it's out. She didn't vote.
Oh, she didn't vote? Oh, you didn't vote? Okay, so it's out. Measure's out. Thank you, I'm sorry.